Welcome to the Edinburgh Fringe Show. I'm Ewan Spence, and it is still July. It is still the previews, but the stages are being built. The venues are assembling. The artists are getting ready to arrive in Scotland's capital city. And the Fringe is getting ready to introduce itself once more to the Edinburgh community. Yes, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome once more to the Edinburgh Fringe Show on your podcast, on your app, on your smart speakers, on your radio, wherever you're enjoying your audio. Thank you for deciding to enjoy some of that audio time with me, myself, Ewan Spence, and my time at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. 20 years this show has been going on, and there's always something a little bit more to learn. So today, instead of going to the artists for our preview shows, I thought I would speak to somebody at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe Society about how Fringe and Edinburgh mix together. So I spoke to Julie Lærkholm, the Community Engagement Officer, as I wanted to find out more about, how the Fringe works with local communities, organisations and schools. We're going to talk about two key ticketing projects, Fringe Days Out, which works with local community groups, and the Community Ticketing Initiative, which sees tickets from artists, companies and venues distributed out to the local community. We'll also talk about accessibility support that's available to performers and venues, with the Fringe helping them guide towards captioning, audio descriptions or BSL interpretation, and all of these areas that can work on their shows and make them more accessible. The Fringe Society is just one part of the Fringe, and the venues and performers will all have their own approaches to making shows and venues as accessible as possible. But this is a great discussion about how the Society itself is raising, promoting and encouraging accessibility across the Fringe for those who attend the Fringe and for those who welcome it into their city. Joining me now on the Edinburgh Fringe Show from the Fringe office, Julie Lærkholm. Welcome to the show, Julie.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. I am the Community Engagement Officer. I work within our Engagement and Access team, and my particular job, while it's very varied, the sort of core things is that I'm looking after our ticketing schemes. We run two out of the Fringe Society. One is called Fringe Days Out, where we work with local community groups to welcome them to the Fringe, make the Fringe more accessible and more welcoming to people who might not otherwise have the opportunity to come. The other is great. It's called the Community Ticketing Initiative. And basically lots of artists and companies and venues who take part in the festival, they donate tickets to the ticketing initiative, and we're just sort of overlooking distributing those tickets and making the connections to people who can make use of them. And again, that is for people who live locally who wouldn't otherwise be able to come to the festival.
It's probably worth taking a step back here, because you and I know how the Fringe is organised and where the Fringe Society and venues and artists and performers all sit inside that.
Yes.
The Fringe isn't this one monolith. It's lots of things working together, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Fringe Society is sort of the organisation that sits at the heart of the festival and try to connect all of the moving parts. So we don't own the festival, we just sort of help it happen. All of the different venues that take part, all of the artists that take part, everyone's welcome to come in. If they have a show, they can come perform. If they have a venue to perform it in, anyone can open up a venue. Audiences, anyone can come and see a show. We just sort of pull it all together. We try to advise artists, we try to connect them with venues, we help with visas, we do a lot of advocacy. We are working a lot to help with this issue around accommodation is really tricky, so we do a lot of work within that to find affordable accommodation and make arrangements around that. We also pull together the program, as you know, the printed program, and we have a fabulous box office where we help connect audiences with shows that they'd like to see. There are so many shows on offer. So yeah, we've got all the shows listed online. We've got an amazing access booking service to help audiences who have access requirements to find shows that they can also enjoy. And then, of course, I work within our engagement and access team, where we try to make the festival as a whole more accessible and more welcoming to people who wouldn't otherwise come and find shows.
What are some of the challenges to accessibility then? Let's stay with the audience, I think.
Obviously, there's the one that everybody thinks about, which is the sort of physical things. Edinburgh is an old town. There's lots of cobbles. You've got shows in stadiums, which are usually really accessible, and then you've got shows in broom cupboards, which might not be. You know, the Fringe is the whole range. But it isn't just about that. There's also a lot in and around the stuff that I particularly work with is a lot around attitudes, you know, people who don't perceive the festival to be for them. You might live in Edinburgh, but you might live on the outskirts, and maybe you don't come to the city centre. So it's just this alien concept for you, and we try to invite people in. Then there are, I think culturally, there's a lot of people who wouldn't come and experience the festival because culturally they don't go to that sort of event. So the groups that we work with to address that could, for example, be Sikhs and Jog. There are also, it's just overall, the festival is quite a busy and kind of intimidating environment. Say you have sensory issues. So there is a lot, and we try to cover the whole range. I don't think we do a perfect job, but we definitely do what we can to address all of these barriers that people are facing.
Where was your background? How have you got involved with the Fringe?
So my background is a little bit wide and varied, but I think in this context, I'll say it's circus. I used to perform a lot. I used to organize lots, and obviously Edinburgh is a really big place for street performance. Now, we just had so many people who came in and were part of the street events. So I used to run a circus centre down in Portobello. It doesn't exist anymore, but there's still so many brilliant artists around and lots of little studio spaces and places that teach. And we had lots of artists coming to us. We had lots of people in Edinburgh who are artists who were connected with the centre who would go out and perform and be a part of it. And I am very passionate about people being able to have those kind of experiences, because it's a part of what I have been living and breathing, and it's so much fun, and it's a way to have your world opened and see things that you wouldn't normally see, and experience things and maybe see what the human body is capable of if you're talking about circus, but also going and seeing theatre. You can really, it can open conversations. It can also just give you a laugh. It can be a respite. It can be something that you enjoy with your friends. So I really enjoy what the Fringe as a whole has to offer, if you know what I mean, and what it can do for people and connections. So I would like for lots of people to have the opportunity to have that experience.
So when you discovered that community engagement is up for a role in the Fringe Society, getting closer to the heart of the festival,
yes,
you must have really wanted that job.
I absolutely did. Well, actually, I wasn't looking for a job at the time, but I read the job description and went, oh, well, I'm going to have to apply now, am I not? And so I did. And so here I am.
So when did you start the Fringe Society then?
That was back in January 2019. So before the pandemic.
And yeah, there is that, the Fringe before, the Fringe after.
Yes. Yeah.
This isn't the job that you signed up for 5 years ago anymore.
No, so my expectation was that it would be quite cyclical, and that we would run projects and run the ticketing schemes and do initiatives, and then we'd be able to sort of repeat those the next year and make them better. But the reality is, of course, that no two festivals are the same, especially with the events that have been. But one thing that I find quite positive is that the community groups that we work with, so the groups that I work with through Fringe Days Out, which is sort of our flagship community engagement project. So 34 community groups and 3 schools. And they are long-term relationships. So they're the same groups that I worked with in 2019, and we've been able to follow them through and support them through up until now in this point, and hopefully far into the future. So it's been really interesting to get to know each other throughout these various years and see how we can get the most out of the festival altogether.
What's the biggest circus skill you use in your job nowadays?
I would say just juggling lots of different tasks. That is
juggling.
Such a cheesy way to go about it.
That's terrible,
no,
Julie.
It is terrible. Sorry, let's do something better.
I mean, it was a terrible question, let's be honest, but...
No. I thought that was the kind of thing you were after. No, so I think it's the relationships with that part of the performance community. I think that stands me in good stead when I'm out talking with people, because you get such a varied amount of people who come and want to take part, either through learning or through performing. And I definitely use a lot of people's skills in this role.
What's been the most surprising relationship you've developed then?
What currently jumps to mind is members of the Deaf Festival. That's not related to the community groups that I support, but just related to people who come in and out of the festival sphere. It's been really interesting to go and explore culture that I have not seen or known of before, and that was through people there.
Now, we've spoken previously to the team that did live captioning over the last 2 or 3 years. Those sort of services are carrying on at the Fringe. How does the Fringe Society help them get involved in the Fringe?
Well, we help shows that are coming in who want to do an audio describe or caption show. We help them connect with the captioner or the audio describer. And likewise as well for BSL, for British Sign Language. And we just recently had training on the captioning units. So I'll be sitting in August, helping, handing out and collecting the units, and hopefully I can give a little bit of rundown to people who come in, like how to set it up and what's going on with that.
What are some of those? Oh, you do that. That's amazing. I would never have found out otherwise.
It's a good question. I wonder if we should maybe just look at the week, the last week, and what I've been up to there. Maybe there's something that pops up. So I have taken a little mobile box office out to Edinburgh Cares, which is one of the groups that we support to come and experience the festival. They work through the Edinburgh University. So I've been doing a little bit of helping people find tickets and shows and organise trips. I'm doing the same. I'm going out to the Grassmarket Community Centre this afternoon and be doing much the same. They're obviously based right in the city centre, but there's so many people who come to the Grassmarket Centre who's just never seen a show or experienced the festival. So it's about just talking a little bit about what happens and what goes on, and see how we can welcome people in. I took a couple of artists out to one of the other groups who work with REACT, Refugee Action Scotland, I think is the longer name. We took a couple of artists out to Sandy's Community Centre in Craigmillar and did a really fun show with lots of the families there, and we'll be inviting them into the festival as well. So I'll be meeting up with them. I can't remember the date, but meeting up with them, taking them to a show. They'll be seeing a show, and hopefully they'll have a better idea of what the festival is, so that they know what kind of resource that it is and how they can use it, hopefully in years to come. And then later in the week, I'm going out to the Citadel Youth Centre because we have an artist doing their rehearsals at the community centre. There's always a hunt for space in Edinburgh. I think everybody is quite aware of that. So we've linked an artist up with a community space. So they've got a space to rehearse, but also the community group can come and see the show before it goes out into a venue. So that's going to be really interesting, I think. Maybe it's worth just mentioning sensory tools. They don't have anything to do with my role, but they sit within my team. We offer sensory tools to people who find the environment stressful. It can be fidget toys, it can be sunglasses, it can be earplugs. So just to take some of those sensory impressions away a little bit, or give people permission or the space to just fidget or whatever they need to do. and they're free. And if people are interested in them, they can go online and book them there. I think that is one of the things that audiences might not be aware of that exists as a support.
So the main website, or there's a portal there for all of these things?
Yeah, there's it's under the main website. That's correct. And also, if you search just on any of your search engines, you can search for sensory tools and Ed Fringe.
What does that do to the performer? Do you have to speak to the performers or give them any guidance to help with accessibility? You know, there are so many shows. How do you communicate, you know, more than we're going to sell a ticket to you? How do you help the Fringe as a ecosystem open up to those?
So we put together a lot of guides and information for shows on how to make the shows accessible. We support a couple of shows as well to be captioned. We support. There's BSL on the high street as well, for example. So those are the street performers, and it could be a little bit more difficult to link someone up beforehand, because that is all very. The way that it's set up is just so varied with street and everything. But that's on the 11th, the 17th, and the 22nd of August that people can experience that. We have a whole list of BSL interpreters that we can connect people with, and we do a lot of work with venues as well. Now, again, that sits mostly with my colleague under accessibility, but obviously as a whole team, we work together. We just did training on the captioning unit yesterday, so that's all. I'm all proficient in how that has been set up. So hopefully, when people come and pick that up, we can just run over the bits that are important. So that goes well for the show. We also run. We work a lot with venues to try and find out how they can be more accessible. It can be anything from just sharing information on the website so people can make an informed choice about like what kind of shows they might want to see, to actual initiatives that people can implement in the venue. You can see we have an accessibility guide online, and there's a couple of venues who've signed up for that as well.
In terms of the community ticket initiative, how do you get the tickets? Because, you know, people are up here to sell their shows. Why should they give tickets away?
So artists are an amazing kind, first of all. They're very generous. I think there are about 50,000 tickets in the ticketing initiative that artists have donated. They do that in part because they agree with giving people opportunities to see shows that wouldn't otherwise have come. They do it sometimes because it also helps fill seats, but that's usually not the main driver, because there are all of your ticket buying audience as well, and there are lots of ways that people come and see shows. It's also just a way to say thank you to Edinburgh for having the artists there. But I think lots of people are just really kind and really up for, they kind of really get it, and they really are up for it. That's just a great, it's always great when we communicate with artists about it. We get lots of really positive feedback around it, and people are here to sell shows, but I think if you're a performer, you have a love for performance, and you do kind of want to share that with everyone.
On the audience side of things, sort of individual difference have you seen some of these tickets and these initiatives make?
Oh, it's great. We have, so when the ticketing initiative started out, it was for young people in and around care. And a lot of the carers get in touch with us and say, "Why, we just wouldn't be able to take the young people in if it wasn't for these tickets." And it's such a world that can be opened, and having those experiences. So the young people, they might go together, they might be able to then take up the offer and go alone and with their friends, and it just gives people that bit more, I suppose, agency. They get to choose a show, and they get to go in, and they get to socialize. So that's all the outcomes that you wouldn't have had if they hadn't had the opportunity to go. We have also had just a progression of someone who wasn't really sure about the festival, who maybe couldn't afford to go, who has been invited in, and first they get the help, and then the next year they might go, oh, okay, no, I can organize it myself. That's great. And then the following year, then they will be the person who goes, no way, I'll organize a group. I know lots of people who find it really difficult to attend, and I want to bring them in and I want to show them. So we get the whole variety, which is really, really, really fun to see and really empowering as well for people individually.
How can people find out more? We've talked about the Access portal now. Can people still apply for the initiative on community tickets?
So we distribute tickets through organisations, community groups and charities. So if you work for a community group or charity and you want to be involved in the ticketing scheme, you can get in touch with us at communities@edfringe.com. You can also read more on the main website. If you're an individual, speak to your local community group, speak to your badminton club, speak to your community centre that you go to, and we can get you signed up. There is the eligibility criteria is online, but usually we just work through the community group to work out how to distribute those tickets. There is still space, people can still get in touch, and it will be great to hear from you.
Julie, fantastic project. I mean, the Fringe itself, nobody would ever think to design the Fringe this way. It's all come together. But the fact that it's bringing in that community and all those different elements is always wonderful to hear in all the mix of the puns and the shows and everything else that goes on in the capital city. So thanks for your time.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for talking to me.
Julie Lærkholm now, the Community Engagement Officer for the Edinburgh Festival Fringe Society. As I said there at the top, accessibility is a huge topic and we've only scratched the surface of it here in this interview. There's a lot more, as you would expect, at the Fringe website, and we'll have links to some of those resources back at our website. That will include a guide for artists on making their shows more accessible, how the Fringe is accessible for the audience, how local communities can get involved in the Community Ticketing Initiative, resources for teachers and schools. All of that, you'll find links back at our website, edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com. What have we got coming up next week? Well, for me, it's press preview week. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday will be lots of the venues putting on, sort of sampler boards, 5 minutes from a number of the acts instead of their entire 1 hour show to give me a taste and then essentially to try and get me to go, oh, why don't you come and see this show? So always good to be going to there. I take my diary to take some notes going through there as well. For yourselves, well, there's one more preview show to happen next Friday. And well, we've had a performer with Chris Grace last week. We've had a little bit about the Fringe and how it works with Edinburgh this week. Next week, we're going to talk to someone who does another one of those building blocks. Daryl Martin runs Just the Tonic. It's a long-standing venue here at the Fringe, and of course it's been part of the British comedy scene for a lot longer. So I sit down with Daryl to find out a little bit more about running a venue, getting started in comedy, getting started at the Fringe, and everything in between. That happens next Friday. And then we will switch to our daily shows Monday through Friday from August the 5th. Also, for those of you who want to tune into this again on the radio and digital broadcast and all of that, are omnibus editions, which will debut on Radio 6 International, www.radio6.com, and then go out through a number of syndication partners. First one of those omnibus editions will go out on Saturday, the 3rd of August. So if you're getting this podcast straight away, it's going to be in 8 days' time. If you're running a radio station, you want to get the Fringe on air, then drop me a note. Get in touch with me through our website, edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com. Thanks very much for your time. The Fringe is huge. I will bring you a little bit of it, a little flavour of the Fringe, all the way through August. So I hope it's been enough today. We'll have more next week, and then we'll be into the thick of the action. But for now, ta-ra. You've been listening to the Edinburgh Fringe Show, hosted by Ewan Spence, produced by Spence Media and Radio 6 International. Listen to more at edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com.